Hi and welcome to the On the Racing Line, the Formula One podcast by fans, for fans. China on the weekend. We are finally back in China after 5 years, and it was also the 20th anniversary of being in China. And I think it's one of those races that we forgot was so good. Well, I didn't. I was really looking forward to going back, but I think a lot of people had forgotten how good this track is. Really conducive to great racing, and we saw a pretty decent race weekend on the weekend. Tristan Pocock is joining me. How are you, mate?
Hi, mate. How you going?
I'm well, thank
Nice to
you.
be back. I didn't enjoy the week off, but
Yeah.
we're here and we're ready to go. I think it's going to be a feisty. It's going to be a feisty episode this week.
What makes you think
I
that?
feel it. I think just
Is it the fact that I nearly
just
attacked
when I
you
arrived
when
and
you
you
walked
pretty
in?
much like launched at me and I was like, is something wrong?
I'm peed off.
Yeah, I can tell you. I can tell you. And that's why I think it's going to be fun. And I think you're going to do the heavy lifting for me this week. I feel good that...
You can be positive.
I think it's going to
keep
be
us
all
online.
you. I'll be good cop this week. You'll be bad cop. And I think, it's just, I don't know, if you're listening, like, strap yourself in.
Yeah. Maybe don't have the kids in the car.
Maybe. Is this going to be an expletive episode? I feel like it is.
They all are.
I feel like it is. You're just mandatory.
They all
Put
are.
the link on, aren't they? Anyway, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Thoughts on the race?
It was good.
Race ranking?
A race ranking overall.
Or will I go? Let's go weekend ranking.
Weekend
We're back
ranking
for the first time.
Yeah, weekend ranking's probably better. I reckon about a 7. No, that's not fair. 8.
Yeah, I'm with you.
8. I think there's a lot to like about the weekend. We were treated in almost every session, but in a variety of different ways.
I'll tell you what, the sprint race weekend worked all right this weekend.
It
didn't
did look all right, didn't it? Quali was a highlight. Sprint quali was a highlight.
wasn't it?
It was the absolute highlight. Bit of weather. Fernando doing some great things. Max not doing great things as well. Just the most
Improves the session,
the most shocking moment for me across the weekend. The one that just I caught my breath was when Max went off twice, and in the last corner of his second fly, straight off and in. I was like, no, and more so than Sainz losing it out of the last corner as well. So. And then Leclerc went into the barrier as well before we started. Did I imagine that? Maybe someone went in before we started. Anyway, there was lots going on.
There certainly was.
Lots going on. There was action aplenty. Good advertisement for Formula One in China.
We got all the goodies.
Yep.
Coming up, and F1.5.
Yep. The list is official.
The scores aren't out.
Scores are not out just yet, so I'm still working my way through that. Sorry.
Okay.
So the list is official,
right.
and we will announce who they are, and then I will have a bit of a social media post throughout the week. But
Yep.
we'll get kick-started.
Yep. Okay. I love it. Very good. Look, we're going to get into our opening question. We've got plenty of opening questions up our sleeve at the moment. There's a little bit of
an audio. I feel like we've got an audio one this week.
Oh, well, I don't have access to that. I'm not on that area.
Okay, sorry.
Hold it. We'll have to hold up our sleeve.
I could be wrong though.
I've got one ready to go.
All right, fire it at me.
And it comes from Sam. He's managed to pip Kingsley, even though Kingsley did have a question in. I reckon Paige had a question in, and it's on.
Paul Cook has. He sent us an audio one this week.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I'll. Is it China related?
I haven't listened to it.
Okay, we'll have to. I'll have to try and get back onto that area.
All right, we'll find some. So apologies, Paul. We have seen it. We haven't listened to it, but fire us.
And it's exactly what I was requesting.
And it's exactly what you've been asking
Yes,
for.
yeah,
And
apologies.
Yep.
But however, this time round, Sam's sent in one, and it coincides beautifully because did you see the fans that were sent in, the Chinese fans that were created for F1 for each team? There was a Chinese fan, like a literal, not a person, a literal flap the fan and it cools you down. I put it on our shared page.
What was it again?
You know what a fan is? Like a fold-up fan.
Sorry, the fan.
Yes, I know.
I'm
You think.
thinking of a person.
I know.
What
yes.
on earth are you
the
talking
fold-up
about?
Chinese ornament. What would you call it?
Fans.
No, well, that's what I said about 6 times. You looked at me funny. And so they had one, and that was sort of one for each team.
Yep.
And what's he noticed the steak one,
And it's hideous.
it is
Hideous.
So it turns out the bright green does not work for
on anything.
for a bit of a Chinese fan.
No.
However,
Yep.
on a race car, it's pretty good. But yeah, so we saw those come out, and there was a bull, obviously, for the Red Bulls, and a bunch of different ones, and they look pretty cool, I thought. Sam's question is, if each team had a mascot,
Yep.
what would the mascot be?
Oh,
we'll take it in turns.
Oh, okay,
We'll put together a list.
Okay.
We'll put together a list together.
All right.
So obviously Red Bull, we'll start at the top of the list.
Well,
It has to be a raging bull.
It'll be a bull, won't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
All
like
right.
some sort of big raging bull.
Just a bull, yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, it has to be raging.
Okay, all right, cool.
Okay, yep.
All right.
Let's go McLaren.
McLaren.
What would the McLaren mascot be?
What would its mascot be? I will just imagine a giant papaya fruit with a face.
That's a terrible mascot.
I'm thinking like real cheesy American,
I was going to go with goldfish.
like college. That's worse. College like college football mascot. Some of them are excellent though. Yeah, I think like a papaya with a face. What are you saying? A goldfish?
Yeah.
That doesn't even relate to McLaren.
No, it's gold. Like that's a very
Papaya
orangey sort of colour, isn't it?
Papaya is a good. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, gee, this is
Not a grey star.
This is a rocky
Ferrari,
this is a rocky
obviously a
prancing horse.
prancing horse.
Yep.
Yeah, like some sort of stallion.
Oh dear.
Stallion, a boy or a girl horse?
I don't know.
No, I knew you wouldn't know the answer to that one. Mercedes. German.
Just an angry German man. What are those giant beers that you get in Germany?
Stein.
Yeah, a Stein.
Oh, yeah.
A Stein with
Now we're
a
talking.
happy face Stein.
Not entirely sure it's like the mascot they're looking
boy.
for.
Oh, dear. I'll pump this episode up 3 minutes ago. People are tuning out.
All right, let's go for... Who haven't we done yet? Oh, yeah. So let's go for Aston Martin.
Aston Martin. $100 note. Because they're green. They're green.
You're usually good at this
They're
sort of
green
thing.
here in Australia. No, that makes sense because
Yeah.
Lawrence has got lots of money, and so Aston's mascot is a giant
but it's-
$100 note.
It's not, they're not supposed to be novelty mascots. They're supposed to be
Oh,
like
God, novelty
firing up the
line.
fans. You know how like at the footy you go?
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Makes dollars.
What are you having?
For Aston Martin.
Yep.
What sort of animal would maybe
It's a green animal.
a green animal?
Like a lizard?
Black. What about a black panther?
Oh,
It's quite...
well, that would be appropriate for Mercedes because they're black.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's a good one for Mercedes. There you go. Now you're switching on. All right, what about a peacock
For who?
for Aston Martin? All show, no go.
Next.
Oh, don't cough anymore.
Goodness me.
Williams?
Williams. Like just some sort of blue bird.
A bluebird, like a bluebird.
A bluebird, yeah, like a blue,
Like a wren.
bluebird.
Oh,
Man, I hope this question ends soon.
we are not getting a job doing this.
Haas.
At the start of the year, we would have made some sort of rude joke about him being some sort of sloth.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate anymore.
No, it's not appropriate anymore. Jeez. I don't know. Give me
Bobcat.
a bobcat.
American.
Okay,
They're
all right,
American
cool.
Bobcats. Yep.
Yep.
Would have fit there. Remember when they had like the army sort of style livery?
Yeah.
Would have fitted that.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yep.
RB Red Bull. RB
a
Cash
credit
App.
card.
A credit card. Yeah, maybe. Sauber. Kick Sauber.
Jeez.
A pair of shoes. A pair of
A
kicks.
pair of shoes.
Yeah.
A
A
pair
pair
of
of like pumped up kicks. Now I've gone down your line. Oh, worst opening question ever. But Sam, I don't think it's your fault. I actually think it's our fault. I actually think we let you down on that one. Oh, it was nice to be back in China.
What about
wasn't
Alpine?
it? Alpine?
Yep. A croissant.
Wee wee. A piece of cheese, a baguette.
Bloody hell, that's a hideous question.
Oh,
That's a hideous
I'm
question.
I'm not entirely
Oh,
sure it's too
jeez.
bad.
Oh boy.
I reckon Sam will give us some really good suggestions.
That
in our
was
next
more
episode.
painful than your segment of
What's trending?
how are they sleeping.
Oh, no. That actually gets regularly requested to come back.
By who?
A few people.
Oh, would love to hear from those few people. Right.
Send in your emails.
Oh, goodness me.
Tristan at Beyond the Racing Line.
We need to salvage this episode quickly.
It was good to be back in China, wasn't it?
It was good to be back in China.
What part of the Chinese circuit do you like the most?
The corkscrew into turn 1 and 2.
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good.
It's cool how it drops off. Like,
Yes.
your last part of that, you're looking over the track you're about to drive in.
And the variation in lines, too, was really
Yep.
interesting to see. Those taking a wide berth and those keeping it really tight. And just the outcomes, depending on the line that you took. Fernando obviously showed his experience at the track by taking the tighter inner line into 1 and then a wider out into 2. But then you've got... I found that, like, the more experienced drivers took that tight initial line, but then a lot of the newer drivers, like Norris, for example, would take that wide berth into 1. Lewis took the tight inside lines. That was really obvious. I really picked up on that on the weekend. The two varying lines based on your experience.
Yep, and it was all about time management, really.
Yeah.
However, I guess actually that's actually not true.
I
because
didn't think it was aggressive as what we were predicting or sort of was communicated by the teams. I mean, the drop-off was there. I think the softs had quite an aggressive drop-off, but the rest seemed to hold steady pretty well.
Yeah, maybe. There's quite a few great spots in this. Like, I love the long straight into that corner. Like, it creates some really fantastic racing moments.
Yep.
I also love the corner entering the long straight. I reckon that's a really great series of corners.
Oh, yep.
The hairpin works quite well,
Yeah,
and
the
then
hairpin's
and then that last corner always creates drama, doesn't
the
it?
tightest, 45-degree angle is just,
And it creates the drama that we want. And it was, you forget what a wonderful racetrack it is. Did you feel like they nailed the DRS this weekend? Having not been there with these cars, I actually feel like sometimes they get it wrong.
I don't know.
And sometimes they leave the DRS open for far too long. It wasn't it wasn't a guarantee that you're going to get that overtake done.
No, but we did get trains. But
Yeah.
if you could, it sort of worked. It worked against you if you broke the train to actually advantage yourself to try and catch the car in front. Because by breaking it, you actually put yourself at risk more so than other tracks. Like often you see if we have a DRS train, if you can break that, you then end up on the back end of the pack that you're chasing, and then you can start to gain that advantage. But I mean, I think we saw that with Fernando was probably the prime example there, where he broke that train while he was chasing Max, and then opened himself
As in
up.
he dropped off the train.
Yeah, like he broke it from Max.
Yeah. So
but then
when you say broke, I think you mean you're coming back.
yeah, but
away,
even it worked the other way. When he broke it from Sainz chasing him, it actually worked against him, because then Sainz was able to catch up in the clean air, and then he was eventually caught and passed. So
I'm with you. Yeah. So for time management purposes.
Yeah, time management purposes.
But there was never a guarantee just because you'd managed to pick up the DRS. It wasn't a guarantee that you're going to get that move done.
Yeah.
And the train sort of helped that, but I feel like there was a fair bit of defending. I think they probably nailed it. I think they probably nailed that DRS. I mean, probably next year, after being there this year, they can shorten it slightly because teams are going to have a little bit better idea. But I sort of thought they nailed that. What about it? Was a good venue for a sprint weekend?
It wasn't too bad for a sprint.
It's pretty decent, wasn't it?
It wasn't too bad. I think the weather still played its hand in that as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
tend to agree.
over a 19-lap sprint, we still saw Max win by 13, 14 odd seconds, but I think the rain, I mean, even that's starting well out of position.
It's a tricky one, that, though, because lots of drivers, as soon as Max gets in front, lots of drivers drop off.
Yeah.
And they just focus on their own race. We see it time after time where drivers know that their race isn't against Max, and so they back off a little bit. Is it rain? I was not expecting rain. So it's 13 seconds. Sounds like a lot. However, all the drivers that were chasing down Max stopped their fight with Max and focused on some other things. And so, yeah, it was glorified a little bit, that one. I think actually the race itself sort of showed a little bit more of a better pace.
Yeah.
But it was a decent decent weekend for. Oh, what was our original question on that?
Racing.
What do you mean? I'm going well, aren't I? Carlos Sainz managed to drop it into a wall.
Oh, huge off.
Then drive it off the wall.
Yeah.
Get it back to the pits and still qualify for the next session.
What are your thoughts on that?
Quite remarkable.
I know a couple of years ago you were very against anyone raising a red flag of being able to continue or escaping a penalty, and the red did come out.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on that?
Look, to be honest with you, that one fairly different.
Yep.
Mainly because it didn't shut the session down. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So he did it early enough in the session
Yep.
that the session could continue.
Yep.
It's tricky because if you stop everyone else from being able to complete their qualifying lap, I think that's when the penalty needs to come out. That's a hard rule to write, though, isn't it?
Well, I mean, IndyCar do it. If you trigger a red, you're out.
Yep.
Even if you can continue.
Yep.
And I don't mind it. I don't mind that as a rule. I mean, I'm okay with the way it was adjudicated on the weekend. I'm okay with him making it back.
Do you think they pulled the red too early?
No.
If that was the rule,
Yep.
do you think they would have pulled that red so quickly? Because it didn't actually need a red. It needed a double-waved yellow, which they just don't go to in qualifying because there's no point.
No, I think it did need a red with the corner and the speed they were entering that corner and the potential for someone else to come off and end up in that spot. So, yeah, I think the red was the right call. I think a double-wave yellow wouldn't have done enough. Because you can, to still drop it with the gravel there and the angle of the corner and the entry speed, even dropping it under double-waved yellow, I mean, I think we'd be quite critical if they had thrown a double yellow, and we're sitting here talking about someone dropping it
in
straight
qualifying in Formula 1, they just don't throw a double yellow.
Yeah.
They throw a red.
Yeah.
They will throw a yellow to show that a car's gone off.
I think a red's the right call.
Yeah, well, in this situation, they had to call the red because that's what they do.
Yeah.
If there was something riding on it like being disqualified from a session, I think they've got a duty to hold off from that red, and you just enforce the yellows. You just enforce the yellows. So you must be slowed down. Or you start using double-waved yellows in qualifying. Yeah. Where drivers must slow down. So it is a tricky one.
Yeah.
It is a tricky one. But yeah, look, I probably would stand by that if you cause a red to be thrown, but you're very reliant on stewards, and I'm not trusting the stewards at the moment.
Yep, fair.
Are you surprised that he dropped it, considering his dad's a rally driver?
No.
Well, Fernando Alonso managed to do the same thing and held it, and his dad is not a rally driver. I believe his dad probably is some sort of
and I think that comes back
Spanish
to,
god.
As I said at the start of the episode, the difference in experience at that track and difference in experience in that driver. So where the younger generation have not come through the ranks with a lot of gravel. And gravel was the outlier here at China, where for the first time in many weeks and many races across the race season, there's only a handful at the moment that you can say have now got gravel. I mean, look at Georgia in Australia. Gravel caught him out. But then very rarely are you dropping it in a corner where there is gravel these days. You've got runoff, you've got AstroTurf, you've got a little bit of room to get away with it there. So seeing that science is part of that new generation, I don't think that that's a skill that he has as well dialed in as someone like Lewis or Fernando on the grid, because that's the way that Fernando's grown up with his racing. Same with Lewis as well. I mean, ironic at China in 2007 when he drove it off into the gravel. But yeah, but I think those guys have the skill to escape it. And you saw that. It was immediate. Like, if that's not catch of the season, I don't know what you would need to do to drop it and catch it to outdo that, because that is full opposite lock. It's almost like before it snaps,
he was a long way around.
He's already caught it in anticipation that it's going. So I think that's it. And that was the big takeaway from the weekend for me. The skill level was really on show, and if you didn't have that skill, you were very much caught out.
Thoughts on Norris's lap being reinstated after? So if qualifying session for the sprint race was fantastic.
Yep.
Really, really entertaining, dry, but the track didn't have a lot of grip, and then it lost all its grip once it started raining the last session. We saw cars going off. Norris did go off, lost his lap. However, usually you'd lose the next lap because sometimes you gain an advantage by going off in the last corner to cross the line, and so they generally take both laps off them.
Yep.
That went into place, and they realised, there actually isn't an advantage here.
Yep.
So we're not going to take that lap away from him.
Sure.
And So he gets the pole, gets it taken away because they'll realise, oh no, you can't have that lap because of the situation that was explained. Yep. Then they realise, oh, there's no advantage there. We're going to give him his lap back. Thoughts?
So, for some people, this is a very old-fashioned rule that used to be around 4 or 5 years ago, and it was that it was applied at every single racetrack. Mm-hmm. So if you have a wide berth into the last corner,
you can gain some advantage.
The current lap time is gone, and the one ahead is still happens in sim racing as well. Like it's part of the rules with that.
Yeah.
However, in this case, and in many cases around, I reckon it would be almost 3/4 of the calendar, if not half. That rule doesn't apply, and China is one of those locations. So it's Article 33.3. I've got it here.
Mm-hmm.
Article 33.3. And it says, in accordance with the provisions of Article 33.3, this is from the FIA and the rules delegates, the white line define the track edges during qualifying and the race. Each time a driver fails to stay within the track limits, this will result in that lap time being invalidated by the stewards. So the unusual circumstance here that I think has caught people out on the rule is that Lando's lap time, when he went wide, and yes, went beyond track limits, that lap was correctly deleted. The following lap that he actually started, once he regained back on the track and he started again, was slower. His delta was 1.5 seconds slower as he had crossed the line in preparation for that next lap. So because of the wet weather, that next lap was allowed to restart because that provision wasn't applied at China. And that next lap actually turned out to be slower regardless of the wide berth there. So the right lap was deleted. It was well enforced. It was just the stewards pulled the trigger incorrectly. Originally. And it was manually deleted. So it wasn't an override system this weekend.
I don't think it's necessarily like China gets...
No, for some exemption.
Do. No. So I think what they actually have to do is they have to check as you just said, they have to check their delta in the lead up to that.
Yep.
And so you may it's very unlikely that you would get a better lead in if you went over track limits because of the gravel trap at China.
Yes.
I think China's just happens to be a track where it's pretty much impossible for you
the close proximity of the line to that corner too. But they did, he went wide and they deleted that lap, and that's correct.
Yeah. I know, I think what I'm getting at is I think what they actually did was correct.
Yeah.
But then when they went back and investigated the fact that he didn't gain that advantage, that's when they can put that into place.
Yeah, and his pole lap still came from the following lap anyway, even though it was slower than the original one. So I think that's also confusion, is that the next lap was actually slower. So, Anyway.
Yep.
But that's it. So, you'll find this on race weekends. We'll go to another track, and that rule won't be enforced. That, yes, you do lose that one and the following one. But, it's a very old rule that you don't really see rear its head very often these days.
No, probably because drivers know that they're going to lose.
That's very true.
On those places that you can get that advantage.
Most roll out of it anyway,
and so, it set up for a pretty decent race. And then poor Orlando pretty much... He panicked, didn't he? He panicked in that first corner.
No, I don't think he panicked. Again,
he got a slow start. Alonso got a decent start. Alonso just worked him wide into that magnificent first corner. And Alonso himself said, he should have given up the corner, kept his second place, and battled out from there. He had a faster car than Alonso. Lando Norris, once again, didn't quite execute when the absolute need was there. When the pressure was on and that need was there, he didn't quite manage to execute. For me, I think he felt that pressure and he panicked.
Yeah.
I think, you've got to see it. Max would have pulled out. Hamilton would have pulled out. The old Max would have stayed in. But Max would have pulled out of that corner. Hamilton would have pulled out of that corner. Alonso would have pulled out of that corner. Although, mind you, Alonso might have made it work. You can see what Lando was hoping might happen because that corner comes back to you if you can stick it out on the outside.
Yep.
It just so happens that Alonso's a pretty wily old customer. He just worked him wider and worked him wider and worked him wider. But at some point in time, Lando had to see the writing on the wall, drop him behind him, and take up the fight for throughout the rest of the lap. But unfortunately, it didn't quite work out. Luckily for Lando, his weekend was saved by a great performance in the race.
Yep.
And but no, it's thoroughly entertaining. It was a really great, I thought, sprint part of the weekend.
Yep.
Do you like the new format of the sprint weekend where it's its own area?
Yes, it
and
makes
then
sense.
we get into qualifying and the race.
Yeah, it does. It 100% makes sense in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah,
Because I can park it, I'm done with sprint, and now I can go and focus
Has
on...
it made the sprint race weekend more bearable for you? You just told me how much you've enjoyed it.
Bearable, yeah. Yeah,
You've just told me how much you've enjoyed this.
Because I'm not jumping back and forth, and I'm like, going, oh, what am I doing? Am I qualifying? Am I racing? Am I sprint qualifying?
100%.
It's just,
Couldn't agree
I can
more.
park and I'm done.
Yep.
Now I can then have proper qualifying, and then I can go and race too.
We need to get into the race, but there was a bit of criticism from drivers that this shouldn't have been a racetrack that they chose because
I think
we haven't been there for so long.
Yeah.
And then they're going to go and only give them one practice session, and then you're into some competitive racing. They felt like lots of drivers might have been using the sprint race as a bit of a testing session. Thoughts on that? Did you like it as a choice because of the length of time that we haven't been here?
I think so, but I think that's that automatic response from a driver that
I'm
not prepared, I don't have the data, I don't have knowledge behind me.
Yep.
I want to know that and feel comfortable.
Yep.
So I think it was just a bit of an automatic response that they're so used to being comfortable with everything that they have in their toolkit, data-wise and preparation-wise, and that was taken away from them.
Yep.
And they were just left feeling a little bit uncomfortable and just saying, well, this isn't really it. But I don't think it was because of any sort of, negative connotations.
No.
And everything. It was just, I want to be more prepared. But I'm okay with it.
Yep. No, I was the same. I was like,
Yep.
you know me, let's put drivers and teams under as much pressure as we possibly can because it creates some exciting racing, and I thought we saw that. Coming into the race, qualifying, Max got it all together. He didn't need too much more time to get it all together, and then he had a very controlled race, didn't he, Max, really?
Yeah.
Not put under any pressure, really, was he?
Not really.
No. It was fairly comprehensive. Max doesn't make too many mistakes throughout the season, and probably qualifying for the sprint was one of them, but he wasn't going to be making those mistakes again. Comprehensive win, really solid performance once again. That Red Bull just likes being out in front. Winning suits Max. It seems to be working pretty well. Sergio Perez, thoughts on his race?
Geez. You can't be critical of it.
Can't you?
Not really, no.
Helmut Marko in Ted's. Do you watch Ted's Notebook at the moment?
No, I don't. Watch
so Ted's Notebook at the end, Helmut and Perez are having a very long conversation out in the open in the paddock, and you just can't you're desperate to go. Ted was trying to speculate on what they could be talking about, but just to be a fly on the collar, I guess, of one of those drivers, one of those people, to find out what they are talking about. They might have been talking about flights home or something else, but you just love to know what Helmut Marko thought of that drive. It was okay. It was fine. He was in the ballpark. It's interesting that he couldn't chase down Lando. We sort of expected him to close that gap to Lando. It never came about, did it?
I think that was sort of the theme of the weekend, though, because the Ferrari struggled to chase down. They've got the best top-end speed. Even the likes of Oscar struggled to make ends on anyone. Lewis is the outlier. He finished 9th, but that Merc will be coming
through the back
past
end.
an Alpine and a Williams. So he didn't have to work too hard for that, but he sort of got to that point where, that's where you expect it to be. That Merc is never going to be outrun by anything lower than it there. Even Stroll struggled to make it through. Dan was struggling to make it through. I think the general progress that people were making, unless you mugged someone into turn 1 and 2 on the first lap, that was really the major gains people made. So I'm kind of okay with it. It wasn't an onslaught of overtaking.
Yep.
But there were elements of it there.
Yep.
And still finished third, which is fine. And Lando out-qualified him anyway, so I think on, say, a traditional track, let's say we go to Australia, Checo probably catches him and runs him down.
Let's not. I don't think Lando did out-qualify him. I think didn't he qualify? I think he qualified second on the grid. He had some. I think Lando jumped him. I think in the pit stops and all that sort of stuff. The other thing that we always need to take into consideration with Perez is that this Red Bull is built for Max, isn't it? And it's built to be on a knife edge. And I really like the analogy at the moment that's going around where if you set your computer mouse sensitivity to really high and you move it, it moves so far, so quickly. And that's how Max likes his Red Bull to be. You turn that steering wheel and it is making that move straight away. And every other driver on the grid can't stand that sort of sensitivity. Apparently, it's the most that engineers and designers have ever seen. They also love it because it's really easy to build a car for, because you don't have to worry about the intricacy of that balance that other drivers are desperate to find. And so the fact that while Perez isn't driving a car that is like that, because he has his setup as different as he can while using still the skills of that car, he's probably not driving quite as fast a car because of that issue. And so while they've tried to bring it back towards Perez a little bit to support him, I think that's still something that needs to be taken into consideration. So, look, he's probably doing a much better job than what we give him credit for sometimes. At times, though, he does need to lift his game. But yeah, I'm with you. It is a funny one. Like, third seems pretty decent.
Yep.
That's probably exactly what he needs, really. He's just cementing his place further as in the championship in second position, which is really all he needs to do. So, yeah, like I said, Norris saved a weekend. Is Dud of the Day going to you and I?
No. What's it going to you and me?
Well, I think this time 2 weeks ago, we had written McLaren off because of their straight line speed. I'll give myself a little let out here.
Oh, okay.
You could be dud by yourself here, because I did say, look, I think they'll probably be able to change some setups.
McLaren themselves
to come along.
Was shocked, and I think the narrative around the weekend,
they were.
in the weeks coming up, the straight
line
was not there.
I don't think they were shocked. I think they had some things up their sleeve they're hoping might work, but they haven't been able to show it before.
Yeah, but they have.
And so it was a great weekend for McLaren.
It was very, very good
in the end, and it shows, for me, this shows some serious progress with this team, because the McLaren of last year, that they got it together, it wouldn't have done this well at this track last year. While they got their season back on track last year, they still had those real weaknesses in certain areas. Really slow corners are a weakness of theirs, and straight line speed is a weakness of theirs. And we saw them, still straight line speed was a problem, but they had managed to fix up this slow corner business to make up for that straight line speed. They were somewhere near 30 k's an hour slower down that straight. Yeah. And that's a big deficit. Not great for helping drivers overtake.
No.
But the rest of that track sort of set them up nicely. So they looked after the tyres and the rest of the track, which did help them with the overtakes or help them stay competitive. So, fine drive. After probably not doing what he needed to in the sprint race, he really turned it on for this race, and I thought it was decent. Thoughts on his comment that he feels like he's going to be ready to fight them for a win towards the end of the year? This season. Sorry, this season. They didn't even say towards the end of the year. He said this season.
Don't know.
I don't mind it. I mean, we have seen teams come towards Red Bull at the end of each season as Red Bull sort of move on. I do feel like, you know what? All the signs are sort of showing that they're the team that might be the one that take them on. They're showing more consistency, they're showing a more rounded car, and they are on that upward trajectory. I think they're expecting some upgrades coming, not Miami, I think it's after Miami, isn't it?
It is after Miami,
So look, we can certainly hope, but I don't mind it for a call, I don't mind it for a bit of confidence for the team. Moving on to Oscar Piastri, he was not having quite as nice a weekend. It sort of comes back down to your idea of experienced drivers.
Yep.
Really taking this track straight away, feeling more comfortable in this track straight away. Once again, Oscar sort of wasn't quite on the pace. I don't know how many times Lando would have driven here, but I think he's probably driven here once before. Has he? I'm not sure, but so it took him some time to sort of, and he was work through it. But then he was tangled up in the Ricciardo Stroll safety car issue, lost a big part of his diffuser, and so then it became a real effort to manage those tyres to get him home for the race.
Yeah.
Because that car was sliding around everywhere. So in the end, I think the team was really impressed that he held on for 8th and was able to hold off Lewis Hamilton in the end. So probably give him a pass mark on that because of the damage that was done to the car. But I think there's still a bit of work to be done around that time management. Ferrari, you said?
Ferrari, just a really unusual. I'm going to put it down to Red Bull's Singapore weekend from last year. It just wasn't quite there for whatever reason.
Yeah, they had...
And what? I'm not sure.
Yeah, they tried a few little things with strategy too, and I don't mind what they tried with strategy. I think there was a soft tyre in there somewhere, and it was just like, we know we're not quite there, so let's chuck a few little things out there and see if anything comes back. Nothing was dramatic. The Ferrari of old would have capitulated drastically and ended up where probably Mercedes was.
I mean, it was all right. Time management was okay.
Still picked up 4th and 5th, which I think is actually a pretty decent effort when you're not on.
Yep, and I thought the DEG wasn't too bad either, and I think they think the same as well.
Yep. Mercedes.
Mercedes, wow.
Georgie boy Russell.
George outperformed that car on the weekend.
Yes.
And I think just in general, if you were going to give him a mark for the weekend, I'd give him a D. I think it was a full failure of a weekend.
Who Mercedes?
Just Mercedes.
Oh, sorry,
in
I
general,
thought you were talking about George still.
No, just in general as a team.
Yep.
I reckon it was one of their worst. And
I think Toto Wolff would probably agree with you because he's not happy with this car.
They're nowhere, and they are borderline.
Are they?
They're a free fall into a midfield team.
Are they borderline? Let's start focusing on 2026.
You'd have to be if you think for any reason you're going to continue with this vehicle.
Like while they'll put in some resources towards this, I think focus is going to switch fairly quickly for this team.
I think so too.
Because I think they're going to be wanting to pick up everything they can.
Yep.
I'm not sure that Toto is confident that they can get anything out of this car. I think the first iteration wasn't going where they wanted.
Yep.
This iteration isn't going where they wanted. I think they're in a bit of a funny spot at the moment.
Yep.
I wouldn't be it's a tricky one because if you're going to be making major team changes, you've got to be able to bring somebody into that team, which, look, they've still got some great pull.
Yep.
But you've got to make it happen now if you want to see that come off for later on.
Yep.
I think they're fairly confident they can get the engine business down pat.
Yep, I think so.
But I feel like maybe chassis and aero is an area that they're going to want to invest in soon, or they want to take some redirection in. It's just, they've lost. I feel like Mercedes is a team that, not because of mismanagement, not because of anything they've really done, but they've had a few key personnel leave that team that has really left them short. I think they thought that they had the infrastructure in place to make up for the loss of people like James Vowles, but I don't think it's quite gone quite as swimmingly as I'd hoped.
No, I don't think so either, and I think it's just a constant knock-on effect of the years that this car, while the architecture and the underneath of whatever is going on under that chassis has been refined, it's still just not coming together as it should be, and I think they're in a free fall, and the cost cap doesn't allow them to make the changes that they need to change in the time frame that they need to change it to. So I'm not even sure
they've got an idea as to where to change to at the moment.
Yeah, I think
so.
It's just,
there's updates coming, and there is a bit of hope that the updates might fix a few things, but I'm not sure. They're certainly not speaking like they're confident it will. So it'll be an interesting watch to see, but I wouldn't be surprised if we sort of start seeing signs that they're focusing on 2026 pretty soon. Fernando Alonso, thoughts? Strange strategy.
Strange strategy. However, provided the entertainment for the weekend. Would you agree?
Because of his strategy?
I think just in general.
Yeah,
every time you looked on track and something was happening, he was there.
I guess
making it happen.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yep.
But I think that was all down to the strategy that they had chosen. To go to the soft tyre for such a long stint, like, it was a mistake. It didn't pay off for them. But I'm not sure what they thought they were going to get out of it. What do you think they were holding on, hoping for another safety car?
I think so. I think they were looking at going down that path.
Yeah, it's like, because I haven't heard. I did go for a quick search through Mike Crack and a few others to see what their reasoning was on that strategy. Like, they all sort of talk about, we gave something a go. And I was like, well, I'm not sure what you're giving a go. If your strategy relies on safety cars, you're not in a good place. Whereas I think that that car seemed to be okay with Fernando behind it. He was qualifying it well.
I think it was just that, is that the straight line speed wasn't brilliant, the tyre deg wasn't brilliant either, but also it wasn't awful. So by having that little bit of an alternative strategy and rolling the dice for something different, I think what they were looking for was searching just for a slight advantage to compensate where they weren't having a dominant aspect of a lap.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It was, yeah. It cost them in the end, but I'm not sure where they thought they were going to get it. I was quite confused and all the way through, and I'm not sure that too many people knew what their grand hope or plan was in the end. Haas, Hulkenberg again.
Oh, now I predicted a double points finish for the race weekend, and it nearly came through. Now, hot press out of China is that Hulk is being touted for Audi.
Yep. Do you believe it?
I have convinced myself that is actually not an awful call.
Oh, look, I don't hate the call, but I know exactly what's happening at the moment.
Yep.
What's happening at the moment is that Audi are desperate to sign a decent driver. And what they're trying to do is not quite coming off because too many drives are still open. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to lay some pressure on some of the names they're trying to sign. And by making somebody that makes sense in that seat, like we just said, that sort of makes sense. Hulkenberg's having a good season. He's an experienced driver. He's the sort of thing that Audi need. They're making his contract quite public at the moment to try and put that pressure on people like Carlos Sainz and other people around the grid to say, look, this drive might disappear. It's going to be a decent drive. I better sign up. And while I'm not doubting that they're looking at Hulkenberg, the fact that they're making it public, the fact that there's a little leak out there that it's the person they're looking at, they don't have to lap him up real quick.
Yep.
That is not something they need to do. He's not under a huge amount of pull from other teams, and so they're just trying to get a few drivers to start to think about them, thinking, we're going to lose him. So, but I'm with you. I quite like the drive.
Well, the more that I've been thinking about it, right? Is there a spot for Zhou outside of Sauber?
Is there?
No.
Okay.
Maybe no. Is there a spot for Valtteri outside of Sauber?
No.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Take it back.
Williams?
Mate, maybe.
Williams, Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mercedes.
Yep.
Please.
Yep. I could see Valtteri. I could see Valtteri filling the seat for Mercedes. The talk of we're going to do something different. Bring someone back. That's different. They've not done that before. But then Logan Sargent's weekend wasn't great again, and maybe
Haas would become the new Haas if that's what they did.
But maybe that's what Williams need. Maybe they don't need a young and experienced. Valtteri and Alex would be a great pairing.
Bottas could slip into Williams
very comfortably, and that's a way of going back. I could see him going to Mercedes too. I can't see him going elsewhere. I don't have a home for Zhou anywhere else. And I know he was really emotional at the end of the race weekend, and I think it was that overwhelm of fan support too. But then I also looked at that and I thought, are you also looking at that going, I've ticked that box, I've been able to represent my country in my country.
I know it's unlikely I'm getting
maybe
a
drive. Little bit of me knows that's it.
Well, it mightn't be,
just all mightn't be
even a little bit. It might be that, look, you're not going to have this drive.
I could be reading into that. I wasn't a fan of the comments across the race weekend that, Formula One are going to go up and down and advocate for him because the Chinese market is there to be had. I mean, I don't know that we know that fully. I mean, the attendance was great, but to have a driver,
I think the attendance was okay.
To have a driver on the grid for purely a cash grab across one weekend makes me very uncomfortable as a fan.
I don't think it's across one weekend.
No, but I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a driver
Zhou
there for the purpose of a market.
Zhou is probably more important to Formula One than 75% of the grid. Because he is Chinese.
And that's what I don't want to see. Just as a fan, that makes me uncomfortable. Because I want to see drivers who are there on talent because they're the best 20.
Well,
I don't want something attached
talk about the rest of them?
But I don't want something attached to them because you're there because on round 5 you're going to bring me more money than anyone else. I don't want to see that. It makes me feel uncomfortable as a fan.
it's impossible to know how good Zhou is because he's never had a decent car. But the one thing Zhou never does give us as well is a shock result. Like we might have had one or two.
He was he was brilliant across the weekend. I really, really did.
Yeah, no, and he's been a respectable Formula 1 driver. He doesn't make stupid mistakes. He doesn't cause problems out there.
Yep.
But he's not coming alive with this crazy pace, and he's not pantsing Bottas all the time. And Bottas is he's a great driver.
Yep.
But yeah, so no, but he is important to Formula 1, and I buy that a lot, that he is really important to Formula 1.
So F3, if you go through his standings, these are his career stats in the key categories. So Formula 3 Euro Championship, he was 8th. Formula 3 Euro Championships, he was 8th again in 2018. Then he made the jump to F2 for Virtuosi. So F2, he was 7th with no wins, 1 pole. Following season 2020, he had 1 win, 1 pole, and he was 6th. Then in F2, he finished 3rd. F3 Asian Cup, he came 1st, but even in his F2 season, he had 4 wins and 1 pole. 9 podiums, which is pretty good for that season. And then from there, so if you look at his stats, 2022, 18th with 6 points. 2023, 18th with 6 points. And right now, as we stand, 5 rounds in, he's 17th with no points on the board.
You're preaching to the choir, my friend.
Yeah.
But he's no different to Sargent. Sargent's there because he's American.
Yep.
He's no different to Stroll. Stroll's there because his daddy's got a team.
Yep. And I think that's what turns me off these drivers.
They're
there for that.
Look, I agree, but I also think he's performing better than both those drivers.
Yep.
Like in terms of a pay driver, which like
He very much is.
He is in different aspects. Like he is a respectable pay driver. Like he's okay.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, if he was in that Stroll seat, do you think he'd be driving better than Stroll?
It's
hard.
probably
too hard to tell. Too hard to tell. But it wouldn't surprise me if he was better than Stroll. Like we've just never been able to see what the best of Wang Yuzhou is capable of. Did I have we got on the Stroll? Ocon.
I think they're getting there. I said this last
week.
It
was a consistent week.
It's a slow burn, but they're getting there.
He had the upgraded chassis, which is quite a bit lighter, so one of their big problems is the weight of the old chassis.
Yep.
Gasly didn't have that chassis. Gasly also had a horrendous pit stop, which saw a tyre come loose and he ran over his mechanic.
And then ran over his mechanic and that. So just a bungled mess.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so, I mean, considering that he had all those things and Gasly was just behind him, like...
2 seconds off a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, respect to Gasly too. Finished 13th.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that either.
No, but considering all the things that happened to him in the race...
Yep, 7 seconds off Ocon as well.
Still running that heavier chassis.
So, they're there about... Isn't their aero philosophy so unusual to everyone else's? It started to catch my attention more and more across... the more I look at the Alpine, is that, the aero philosophy is so drastically different. However, they're starting to make steps. It's going to take a while. It really is, but they're getting there.
It's good for Formula 1.
It is. I think if you to sit here round 5, if we turned up in round 1 and you were to say to the Alpine boys, I'll tell you what, we're going to go to China. You're going to be a handful of seconds off a point. Gee, they'd take that after round 1.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
They were a rabble in round 1.
Alex Albon,
12th.
They really struggled with setup, and so they made some changes to Sargent's car because Sargent was finding the car undrivable.
Yep.
And so they started from the pit lane. It didn't really make much difference because then it became a bit undrivable in a different way. Alex Albon sort of put up with it, but he just ground out a decent result, I guess. And
they're at sea at the moment.
I think that's down to Alex Albon.
Yep.
I think that's down to Alex Albon.
I think they're lost. They're lost at the moment. They've had their focus has been refined at the beginning of the year. They've had huge repair bills.
Yep.
They're a chassis down.
Had to drive within themselves.
They're lost. They really are lost. And that disappoints me and it breaks my heart because we had a lot of high hopes. Alex was the most in-demand, on-fire driver at the end of last year. The Williams was going places and they're fallen over their own feet at the moment. So, don't know. Can't be too critical, but I think from what we're seeing, they're a little bit they're a bit lost. Where are they going? What are they doing? Ugh, I'm not sure. You just, you'd be sighing in your lounge room if you're a Williams fan right now and thinking, man, we were looking like we were going to do something. Just take that small one step forward. But, yeah, it's just not there at the moment.
Not quite.
No.
Not quite. Hopefully they can get it together. RB Honda. Terrible weekend in the end. In terms of when you look at the result from the race, you think, oh, what a terrible weekend. I mean, Ricciardo was new chassis, which is... He was suggesting that he wanted one, but he wasn't exactly outwardly calling for one.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh, look, something doesn't make sense to me. I can't wait to get my hands on a new chassis.
At it and just
he said, look, I got some feeling back into this car, which I haven't had so far this season. And so whether it's a placebo effect, a mind over matter thing, but I'm not entirely sure. But his entire race weekend came together a whole lot more nicely than what it usually would. Once again, experience, and he is good at this track. This is a track where Ricciardo has typically done quite well. But yeah, he was clearly faster than Tsunoda throughout the race weekend. Quite a lot, which seemed like way more than what anyone's expecting. And then he had an okay sprint race weekend, couldn't quite get into the points, but he's performed quite well. And then terrible start off the line for the race, Ricciardo. Sort of got stuck amongst the traffic. Seems a bit of a common theme for Ricciardo at the moment. Japan was the same. I'm not sure I've seen him start so well, so that'll be probably an area that he wants to start focusing on now that he's found a little bit of feeling in the car. And then, unfortunately, we had this incident with Stroll. Thoughts?
I'm going to let you just run wild with this.
There are all sorts of parts of this part of the race that annoy me, and then the subsequent roll-ons afterwards. So we're behind the safety car.
I'm going to put my feet up there.
There is a little bit of a concertina effect, which I understand. We all understand that this happens in Formula One. It is such a common thing to happen. And as you said, Oscar Piastri summed it up best. What did he say?
He said, we all managed to not crash.
Yeah, so what happens is the cars bank up. Ricciardo nearly gets Piastri. In fact, you know what? I reckon he might have nearly got Piastri, but not to the point where any damage was caused. I reckon there might have been the slightest touch about to happen, and so it might have saved Ricciardo a few blushes there, but it wasn't going to cause any damage, and Stroll just rammed in the back of him. Now, it wasn't just a love tap, as Ricciardo said. He smashed the back of him, sent the car into the air.
It was a very big hit.
And both he and Stroll go wide. Hulkenberg takes the spot. Okay, now, tell me if you think any of this is incorrect, but I've done a lot of study on this. Hulkenberg takes the opportunity to step in front of them. Both cars go wide, but neither car goes off the track. Neither car drops back a significant amount of time, but Hulkenberg still takes the place of them because Hulkenberg was coming in behind Stroll. Because this is on the safety car in lap, they're off racing within the next two corners. And so Hulkenberg continues on. There is a safety car straight away. Okay, so Hulkenberg claims that the reason he took the spot is because there was a significant problem with the cars, which is under the rule 55.8, in Article 55.8, where you don't overtake under safety car unless there is a significant problem with the car. He takes the place, which really baffles me that he's been allowed to do that, considering neither of them drop back significantly in time delta. And then, so the race starts again, then Tsunoda gets hit by Magnussen. Magnussen, what the hell? Anyway, it's a different... Unusual?
Well...
No, it's very Magnussen. Let's talk about drivers that should be on the grid, but that's not what we're talking about now. Magnussen turns around Tsunoda, and it causes another safety car. Ricciardo takes the opportunity to take his place back, which, look, that the team probably should have asked. Hey, what's going on? We had our spots taken. You've got all the safety car to make that happen. They should have asked. They assumed. You shouldn't assume. Fair enough. I don't mind them being told, no, that's no good. The next part, though, does my head in, because Ricciardo ends up retiring because the car's got too much damage to it because Stroll smashed the crap out of the back of his car. After the race, Formula One does an investigation into the overtake and decide that it's a 10-second penalty. Now, because he's out of the race...
Can't serve it.
You can't serve it.
Yep.
So they're going to roll over a 3 grid place penalty, which is way more than 10 seconds to starters, but I understand that's their conversion rate.
Yep.
They're going to roll over a 3 grid penalty for Miami.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on all that?
I haven't seen a driver as animated after an incident as what Dan was.
Sorry, I've seen drivers animated. I've never seen Dan animated.
And that sort of... I think that is what really shocked me, is that you can have an incident and you can have things like that happen, but the anger and the frustration and how animated he was in the way that all went down just really convinced me.
Well, I think...
Not that I needed convincing, but it was just what happened was so wrong
and that was
totally avoidable.
That was before they even told him what Stroll's reaction was, because Stroll's reaction was that that idiot stopped, and then Ricciardo really fired up. He goes, that makes my blood boil, and then there's a few expletives, but it just I couldn't agree more. And so because Stroll's first reaction was, it's not my fault, that's so unfair, man.
Yep.
And I was like, come off it, surely you know. And then he said, oh, look, there's this concertina effect, and I guess because I'm the one that hit the person, that's why I'm in the bad guy. But like, no shit, no one else hit each other.
Yeah, but Dan's spot on in what he's saying, because if you watch the onboard of Stroll, and if you look at the onboard of Piastri, if you look at the onboard of Alonso, and you look at everyone's onboard, Stroll is looking at the apex of the second last corner.
He's not paying any attention.
He's not paying attention. And the aggressive way that he hit it.
That's why he didn't know that it was just Ricciardo stopping. He originally thought it was just Ricciardo stopping for no reason.
It was a ridiculous hit, and it was hit so hard. You're preaching to the converted here.
10 seconds for that is ridiculous for Stroll. Now, so all of that really annoys me.
Yeah, it's two penalty points as well.
He should be copping way more than that, because it is dangerous driving, and and Mike Crack can go get stuffed. I mean, he's supposed to be a really considered man. I know that they're all scared of the Strolls, and they've got to come out firing for their team.
Yep.
But the right thing to do was saying, look, we're stuffed up big time, we've cost one of our rivals.
Yep.
The ability to continue racing, because we've smashed the crap out of 2 cars.
Yep.
However, the part that baffles me and annoys me more than all of that put together is the fact that the FIA stewards announced this investigation after the race. They knew this was going on. Yep. The rest of the race wasn't that busy. So come out and say, Daniel Ricciardo, you've got a penalty, a 10-second penalty, for overtaking under safety car during this quiet part of the rest of the race, which we don't have to pay much attention to. Yep. And then Ricciardo does like what Alonso did not long ago, and like what other teams do not long ago, brings the car back out, serves his penalty, and retires the car again. Yep. It is just ridiculous that they've given him this rollover penalty because they didn't think it was important enough to investigate during the race.
Oh, absolutely.
They didn't have to hear from them. The other option was it was caused by the actions of somebody else.
Yep. We
understand that why you might have done that. This is a warning. Don't you go overtaking without permission under safety car again, because it's dangerous.
Yep.
And we're going to let you off with these circumstances, with these extenuating circumstances involved.
Yep.
The next part of it is, why the hell is Hülkenberg allowed to go and do that overtake, which is the part that baffled lots of people at the track at the time.
Yep.
He made this overtake. Stroll and Ricciardo were in place for the restart.
Yep.
He wasn't given permission to do that. He took it upon himself. So why wasn't the FIA that's straight away onto, you've got to give those places back? It is just... I don't mind him taking the spots, but get proactive about telling him to take it back.
I couldn't agree with you more with the stewards. So this is... And you're right, they didn't need to hear from drivers. It was as clear as day as what needed to happen there.
And they could have known what happened. They understood why he did this.
Yeah.
And they understood what would have happened if they had just paid that penalty straight away.
But then it goes, and then that comes back to that common sense approach that even when we had a couple of weeks ago, we had Lando jump start. Like, yeah, he did jump start the start, but even though he didn't trigger the pit box, the pit box sensor, he still jumped that start. So a little bit of common sense was approached there too. This is the official reasoning. So going back to that point where you say, well, we didn't need to hear from drivers. This is the official reasoning of the Stroll incident and the actual penalty there too. So at the moment, he sits on 7 points through a 12-month period. He's had 2 penalty points applied to his licence as well. So the reason was, and this is official from the FIA and Formula One stewards, the stewards reviewed positioning, marshalling system data, video timing, and in-car video evidence that determined that car 18 collided with car 3 at turn 14. So straight away, we've looked at all of this. Mm-hmm. We didn't need to hear from anyone because we've got all this.
No, but they paid that one.
Yeah.
That one was fine.
Yeah, and then it also, down the bottom, it's got the cars are all travelling slowly to set up for the restart of the race towards the end of the safety period. The car in front of car 18 slowed to take the corner and also tried to match the pace of the group of cars in front of it. Car 18 then collided with car 3. We determined that car 18 ought to have anticipated the pace of the cars in front, particularly car 3, and should have prepared to brake accordingly. So I agree with you in 10 that the 10 seconds is probably not enough. It probably need to be a drive-through, to be quite honest. For the stewards to come out and say that we've looked at all of this and it ought to have prepared braking early and been aware, tells me you need a little bit more than 10 seconds. Had it done that, this is a continuation on, had it done that, it would have avoided the collision. Like, fully avoided the collision. Hence, car 18 was predominantly to blame for the collision. I'm not sure how not predominantly, and it shouldn't just say totally. And that ultimately led to car 3 having to retire from the race.
And that there, in the conclusions, should be, there's a bigger penalty there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he smashed that car.
You're right, it wasn't a love tap.
No.
It was a full
rear end. The end of Ricciardo's car was over the front.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
So, but it's just like, they can get that out, but they can't get Ricciardo's thing out.
Yep.
There's one last part of this which is annoying me, and it could just be because they're getting their ducks in a line. Yep. Where the hell's RB on this one? Yep. Like, what if this was Alonso? Aston Martin, as much there's things I can't stand about that team, but Aston Martin, to their credit, would be yelling from the rooftops that this is incorrect, this is an injustice, we've got to fix this, and we are going to be fighting it.
Yep.
Where on earth's Red Bull on the RB on this one saying we're going to be fighting this because this is an injustice? You guys are the ones that didn't pull that penalty soon enough.
Yep.
You guys are the ones that allowed all this to unfold because you didn't speak to Hulkenberg quick enough.
Yep.
Like, just get on the front foot and come on, let's go at it, because it's just ridiculous. I can't get over the fact that RB aren't crying out about this one. I'm hopeful the next couple of days I'm going to see that they've come out and said, look, we're not happy with this and we want some answers, because we want to have that fixed. And we've seen it with Alonso, we've seen it with others. It does come off if you give it a go. You've got to come with some new evidence, but I'm sure they'll find some new evidence because they weren't able to get through it all. And yeah, it just baffled those at the track. It baffled me. It ruined my weekend and I'm fuming.
You just got to keep asking the question. I reckon I ask it every week. It's just, is it time to officially go? Like, we have to be serious with Stroll. Like, it's just
he's and then his attitude around it all. His attitude after the race. It wasn't like in the cool light of day he calmed down and saw his way through it. He kept on the attack. Oh well, I guess because I'm the one that crashed. No crap. You're not supposed to crash into people.
Yep.
Like, it just stinks of a.
One man is holding that team together.
Oh, 100%.
And when you look at what he can do on a race weekend, as talented as he is, to watch one car disappear off into the distance frequently, and it's not just on race day, it's in every single session, just skips down the road, like he's holding that team together. I mean, the question, where would Aston be without Fernando right now?
Oh, in no man's
lost
land.
at sea.
In no
man's
well, look,
100%.
No. Look, you don't know, because all sorts of drivers could be driving that car quite well. It's just that we see one driver doing it, and we know his talent, Fernando's talent, but we know how far off Stroll is.
Yeah.
It's a boy with a golden spoon. He's born with a golden spoon in his mouth, not taking accountability for his own actions. What else is new for this man? Like, it's just, it's pathetic. Anyway, we do need to move on because people will be had enough of me crying about it.
Now, before we go to the next segment,
all signs. Yeah, go on.
We don't usually have this happen because most
what's
weeks,
happening here?
most weeks before we'll disappear off the podcast for recording, and we'll do all our thing to get it set for, and we'll have breaking news on at the end of the evening. Well, we've got some now. Right now. Breaking news. You
know that
right
breaking
now.
news doesn't go
Right
well
now.
on a
It
podcast.
does. It is going well right now.
To it any time.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So
this isn't live. You do
this
know.
this is legitimately live.
No, but the podcast isn't live.
The podcast isn't. No, I know, but I'm
Okay.
putting it in there because people will listen to it
Hit
once.
me up with it.
Ferrari have an alternate livery for Miami, and they will be dipping their toe in blue.
Oh, that's not news.
That's brilliant.
Okay.
That's brilliant. So they are celebrating what is their 70th anniversary. The 70th anniversary in the American motorsport market. And the Scuderia will be set to unveil a one-off look which will make reference to that heritage. So they will be blue, or they will be blue and red.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
That's brilliant. I love it. I hope it's all blue. It's not going to be. It's going to be blue and red.
Yeah, it sounds
it's going to pay
sounds like
homage
they
to the
just
number
said it's
42.
gonna be blue and red.
Yeah, so it's the 296 GTS. Yeah, and that's the Le Mans wearing. Sorry. Yeah, that's the Le Mans.
Okay.
The Le Mans chassis, and that's set to lead the parade of Ferraris around the track in Miami. So I'll have a little bit of a Ferrari parade as well, and then we'll have that livery unveiled too. So I think it's going to be red with a splash of blue. But geez, I hope it's blue.
Surprised they're not doing it in.
Brilliant, I love it.
In Italy.
No, well, it's paying homage to the 70th anniversary in the American marketplace.
Oh, okay.
And American motorsport. So because we're going to Miami,
okay.
they're just tipping their hat to the work that they've done in America for 70 years. So
Okay.
I like that. I'm excited by that.
Okay.
Nowhere near as excited as what I thought you were going to be.
Speaking of excited, all signs, they're exciting. All signs, 3, 2, and 1, driver of the year race rankings. 3 points to Norris.
3 points to Norris.
You going to go 3 points to
No, I'm
Norris?
going to go 3 points to Max this weekend. Out of position. Sprint race.
Hang on. Yeah.
13-second lead. Brilliant.
Okay.
We don't often tip
We
our
don't.
hat to him,
We do not.
and I have to this week.
Yeah, we do. We do not, and we should, but we don't.
Yep.
Yeah, go on. Who's your 2?
2, I'm actually going to give to Joe.
Joe?
Yeah, because I actually thought he...
After you just bagged him out.
No, I didn't bag him out. I was just asking the question, is there a spot for him? And if we're having him there because he's going to bring some more money in my pocket, I don't like that. But when you talk about his race weekend, he qualified really, really well. He was in top 10. Both Saubers were in there for the first time. He raced pretty respectably. His sprint wasn't too bad. At some stage, he was looking like hanging on to points. A little bit of a feel-good story. I liked it. 2 points.
Okay, I'm going to go 2 points Russell, because that's a much better answer. Joe's actually doing all right in the rankings. Who's your 1 point?
1 has to go to Hulkenberg.
Yeah,
Again, just continuing.
We can agree on that.
5 rounds in, he'd be right up there with driver of the year.
Yeah.
He's last year's Alex Albon.
Yeah, and you know what? I think he's received a couple of points off us.
Brilliantly
couple
well.
of races,
Brilliantly well.
Dart of the day.
Dart of the day. Dart of the day. Well,
I want a hero of the hour first.
Oh, hero of the hour.
I've got one for you.
All right, you hit me with your hero of the hour.
Albon's helmet.
Oh, the panda.
Every time I see it, I think, that's a real Norris thing to do. But no, it was Albon's parrot. Now, not because I liked it.
Okay,
Sorry, no.
right.
I take it back. Not because it was cool.
See, I didn't like
It was funny. It was like to
yeah.
see those eyes in the car was quite funny. And then
Yep.
when you see the little panda mouth
mouth as
underneath,
well.
this
Yep.
is not something I would usually find funny.
I actually thought Bottas's helmet was really nice, like with the golden dragon
Yes,
on it.
yeah. I thought that was
very
quite good.
high
But no,
quality
hero of
too.
the hour. I'm going with Albon for a
Okay.
very unique,
Yep.
but quite funny helmet.
Okay, all right. I don't have a hero of the hour for you.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
I've let you down
That's
there.
okay.
All right,
Dud.
dud of the day. Dud of the day. This is a little bit of a left field dud of the day. So
Ooh,
being that the
they're my
driver,
favourite ones.
being that the driver market is very wide open, dud of the day goes to people who run social media pages,
Oh, this sounds like us.
and you have a snapshot somewhere across a race weekend of 3 people from different teams or 2 people from different teams just having a conversation. And what I saw across the weekend over the last 24 hours and on Sunday in particular was a photo doing the rounds of Toto Wolff, Helmut Marko and Checo Perez talking to each other. Now, this may come as a shock to some people in the Formula 1 world, but I reckon most of the drivers know each other. And I reckon most of the team bosses know each other. And I reckon most of the team bosses know most of the drivers and vice versa. And at some stage when you walk past each other in the paddock, you'll say, hey,
what's going on?
what's going on?
And there's other things that they talk about
And
too,
they
because
probably
they're
talk
all
about other weekends.
experiencing similar
Yeah,
things. Where'd
because,
you go for dinner?
Yeah, and they fly together. Like Max flew home with Lando. It's not
Yep.
uncommon
Yep.
that they know each other because they work together and they're in the same sport. So when you see that happen, it does not mean that Perez is now signing Mercedes.
The big conversations happen
not.
behind closed
It
doors.
is not what is happening
Yes.
at all.
Yep.
Like, if Yuki says hey to Fred Vasseur, he is not suddenly a Ferrari driver. So if you are one of those people, or if you run that, my God, stop. Because I look at it and it is low-level, low-key, sensationalism, tabloid media.
He might be trying to butter him up.
Nah,
but
he might
is
also
not
be saying, how is your
not
flight over?
That's right, there is not a conversation
There
going on.
is not a
there.
conversation. No one is signing a contract in the middle of a walkway in a paddock at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon post-qualifying.
Yep.
It's not happening. So if you see it, if you love posting, they're going, what's going on here? I'll tell you what's going on here. Nothing. So they're my duds.
I've got a range of duds. I'm going to run through some special
Fire it at
mentions
me.
and then we can choose a...
Some honourable mentions.
Yeah.
Yep.
How dare the broadcaster take away the above view of the first corner by going into Lando Norris's car? Did you notice that? First corner, we're dropped into Norris's car so we can watch the action unfolding in front of him. Did my head in. That is one of my favourite corners getting around, and we missed it because we dropped into in-car footage. I can't stand that. Just show the overhead view so I can see what's going on with the rest of the cars. Norris isn't that important to the world where we need to see what's going on with him. Sure, we can see the front three from there, but I want to see the whole field. This is a great corner, watching them all roll through there. Does my head in. Next one, Nico Rosberg's voice. Oh my... Please tell me he had some sort of cold and they could not find anyone else. I agree. Some of his analysis of the race and things that he was saying might happen in the race, it was not bad. But my God, I cannot deal with his voice. Honestly, that will be the camel that breaks the straw that breaks the camel's back in sending me to what is it? F1 TV, because I tell you what, I cannot. I can't deal with that voice.
What's happening to the kids' broadcast? Where's that gone? Have
Yeah.
you noticed that?
Did you notice his voice being horrendous?
No.
When he gets excited, it gets worse. Next one. Why do they take so long to call for a virtual safety car? Bottas was getting out of the car and cars were coming at him on track.
Well, I think they didn't realise it was stuck in gear.
No, but you're not listening. Bottas was out of the car, and they still hadn't called a virtual safety car, so they were under yellow.
Does that just come with? I want to say inexperience. But we've just forgotten. We've just forgotten what we're doing at China.
But there's not Chinese people doing this.
I know it's not Chinese people.
It is.
I'm saying that we've forgotten just the aspects of
there
what
was a beautiful camera
track.
angle showing what Bottas was doing, and he had to look up to check that there was no car spearing towards him. Now, if there was a car spearing towards him, he's done for. The fact that there wasn't a virtual safety car called out while he was out of his car trying to sort out his car was ridiculous.
Yep.
Next one, RB strategy. What exactly were they hoping to achieve with Ricciardo going medium?
Lauren Meckies is now.
Hey?
Lauren Meckies is now leading up the work. Well, you don't forget what he did last year at Ferrari.
Well, 100%. So, what did they expect was going to happen? Dan seemed pretty positive about where they were at. His car pace was great. I agree with him.
Yep.
But I'm not entirely sure. He was going to have to stop again. He'd missed those opportunities to stop under the safety car.
Yep.
And so, strange. Stroll could be one. K-Mag could be one.
Yep.
I don't know where K-Mag's at in his driving. And then why did they leave the safety car out for so long? The track was clear for such a long time. Jeez, I've got the sooks up today, haven't I?
I said this was going to be
But most importantly, it was you for predicting that McLaren was so bad this year at this track, and they turned it around and got second in a race that they really shouldn't have had second in. Which one do you think should be the dud of the weekend?
Not me, probably Stroll.
Okay, I'll go with you. Anyway, come on, let's move on. What do we got next? Let me have a little look at my rundown sheet.
Yep.
F1.5.
F1.5.
How exciting!
How exciting! All right, here we go.
This is the time.
This
is the time of year.
Yep.
And the podcast could be over if you do the wrong thing here.
Oh, I'm not going to.
No. I'm confident because I like both your ideas.
All right, here we go. All right. This is it. So F1.5. This is the field. This is the official field. If you want to write in or DM or make some complaints, go for it. I'm not going to pay any attention to it or read it or act on it.
Tristan at beyondtheracingline.com.
Live in the studio here. All right, Logan Sargent is in. Valtteri Bottas is in. Pierre Gasly is in.
Yep. Why do you not do this?
I'm just doing it all
okay. Yep.
Dan is in. Zhou is in.
Mm-hmm.
Ocon is in. Albon is in. Magnussen is in.
I'm trying to remember which teammates you've included so far. Yep.
Magnussen. Both Hasses are in.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Both Williams are in.
Yes.
Both Alpines are in.
Yes.
Both Saubers are in.
Yes.
Dan is in.
Oh, this is interesting.
Dan is in. Yuki is in.
Oh.
Yuki is in.
Yeah.
Yuki's in.
You're showing
Yuki's
some
in.
tease. Don't do it.
I'm going to do it.
Don't do it.
And Lance Stroll is in.
You know what's going to happen
He's in.
here.
I don't. He is in. He is not going to win. He is in. So he is official. It's official. He is in. He's in.
He doesn't deserve to be in it.
He does deserve to be in
It's
it.
the great... No.
In.
This is the greatest championship outside of F1.
He's in.
And he does not deserve to be in that next tier championship.
All right, I haven't done the standings yet. All right, I've got to go back. I'm working through it. I'm halfway through it.
It takes time.
Right, it takes time. Bear with me, listeners.
So F1.5, for those people who don't know what it means,
Yep.
do you want me to explain it or you want to explain it?
You can explain it if you like. Yep.
So we so often see in Formula One that the top teams collect all the points, and it doesn't really give us a good understanding as to what the rest of the grid's doing. Now, Formula One is actually trying to trick us on this one, which we'll talk about in the news segment. However, the teams down the bottom seldom score points. However, there is battles going on down there. And so what we do is we exclude the teams that continually end up out the front. It originated when Mercedes were out the front all by themselves, and then we included Red Bull out front with Mercedes, and it just became Red Bull, and then it's become a top 5 category. So we remove those teams from the categories so we can see what the battles below them are doing, because the points in Formula One don't show us that because they seldom score the points.
Yep.
And so what we do is we remove those drivers and then award points if all top 5 teams all finished, they'll leave the 11th position collecting 25 points, 12th position collecting 18 points, 15 points, and so on. Okay, so we remove those top teams. However, we're keeping Stroll in. So, interesting. All right. Anything else you want to add to it?
That's it. No, I think I'll put. We'll put fastest lap in. We'll put highest qualifier in. Just a couple of bonus points throughout the race weekend. Give me your predicted top 3 right now.
Oh, for what's happened so far? Just
who? If I was to give you a podium now, quickly give me your top 3 right now.
I'm going to go Hulkenberg.
Yep.
Yuki.
Yep.
Oh, who's my and Stroll. Stroll.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's finished enough races and would have scored. I think he's probably scored a win or 2, possibly, or at least seconds.
Yep. All right.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think Stroll will be up there, but Hulk will be there and Yuki will be there as well.
Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else? I'm trying to think. Magnussen's had some results.
I think Ocon would be thereabouts too.
So he's been
and
a lot
Alex
back.
might be thereabouts.
Alex could be a sneaky.
Yeah, there'll be a couple of there too. But I don't expect that to be the official running for.
Who's your prediction to win it?
I reckon Hulk.
Could Ricciardo be a smoky? I mean, he's going to be a fair way back.
Maybe we're 5 rounds in.
If he has found his groove, you would have to have him as, like, we've seen that they can be competitive enough.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway.
Okay.
Good
I'm very excited.
Good. It should be exciting. I'm excited.
It's an exciting championship.
Anyway, I'll have that up and running for everyone with official standings when we get to Miami.
I have not looked at fantasy. Tell me about fantasy.
You haven't looked at fantasy.
No,
thanks to Chris.
Thanks to Dr. Auto Art, Chris from Dr. Auto Art. We've got the prints up in the headquarters, and they look magnificent. I wonder what the noise quality's
not so
like, because this is not ideal for sound recording. Is rain? I hadn't considered rain tonight. That is for sure.
Neither did I. Thanks to Chris, Dr. Auto Art. Get around his Facebook, Instagram, Redbubble, prints, artwork, socks, helmets, the works. Sign up to his newsletter to receive discounts throughout the year.
Am I going to be happy about this?
No, but I am. So, one thing I noticed across the race weekend, before we get into it, you could still make driver changes after sprint qualifying, which I found was really unusual, because I did send you a message over the weekend and be like, hang on, is sprint not included? Because sprint qualifying was over, and I went in to have a look how I'd gone with points, but I could still manage my team. Whether or not that was just a bug or they had forgot to lock it down. Anyway, I didn't act on it or anything like that because I was pretty happy with my selections. But it looks like you might still be able to access your team after sprint qualifying, so you can roll the die. A lot of people took my advice on the pod, whether or not they listened to it or not. I'm just going to claim they did, and they went with the limitless across the race weekend.
Yeah, that seemed to work
unlimited, and it did work.
Did you do it?
No, I didn't. Because I was unsure about the McLaren and the Ferrari, how they were going to perform, and I'd rather lock it into a weekend where I know who the second best team is going to be. So anyway, for those that did, the common thread was Max, Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, Red Bull, and Ferrari. Our number one scorer for the race round, if you can believe it, is Sam Pearsall. Now we've been digging the knives into Sam.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was for China.
Oh,
so China, Sam.
There's equals.
There was equals right across the board. So Sam, Paris, Gavin Fenner, David Parsons, and AJ Ferguson, all with 456 points respectively. And to be honest, they all had that exact same team with the double points on Max. So that's how that works. So a 5-way tie for first position. And well done to Sam, because we've been digging the knives in. And I thought that's fair enough, but then after his hideous opening round question, Sam, if you're listening, don't ever send an opening round question in again, because my God, have we had to work hard. I thought I was going to be able to put my feet up this week, but far out. Lucky I had a double shot coffee before we got on air tonight, because I've had to work hard to save the pod after that.
I had so many too for the China weekend, and I went with that one because of the fans. Remember I was saying the fans?
Yeah, I know the fans. The fans were hideous. Anyway, so that's what it looked like. For us, I finished with a total round ranking of, not great, 20th overall for the race weekend. Embarrassing, which is not great. And my points were 286. Have you found where you are?
No, I'm looking.
Good. Keep looking, because I'm not going to go down. Sorry for our listeners with that rain. My goodness me, that's very heavy. I thought it was supposed to be like
52nd.
52nd, yeah, you suck, and that makes me happy. And then if we're looking at the overall top 10, we'll do a top 10 this week. I did a top 5 last week because I think I was 5th. So we'll just stretch it out to a top 10 this week because I think people want to hear a little bit more who's further down. So our top 10 runners look a little bit like this. Varese Hafiz is sitting pretty on top with 1,305. Andrew Taylor, 1,256. Denilson Musila, 1,223. Dean Holt was 1,208. That's tied at the top. That's a couple of DNFs away from taking first place. David Rojas is 1,192. Chris Holt, 1,181 in 6th position. Gavin Fenner, 1,166, sitting pretty in 7th. Loz van de Vieve, sorry Loz if I've got that wrong, I feel like I have butchered that horrifically. 1,159. My good self hanging on to a top 10 spot. Thank God one of us is good at fantasy. With 1,143, and Jolie and Dyer rounding out the top 10 with 1,139. And if anyone wants to know where you are, my good friend,
nah,
it's going to
25th,
keep scrolling. 25th on just a pathetic 928. That's pathetic. Well, you haven't even broken the 1,000 yet.
Did you put a social media post up while we were recording?
I did, because I was very excited by the blue Ferrari. And we don't get to do that often. We leave and then it's on and we're like, oh, if only something exciting happened while the podcast was on.
Ferrari needs a capital letter, by the way.
I was speaking,
I know,
speaking at the same time while I was doing it.
You were doing a good job.
I know, I'm pretty active on the pod. You like to just sit and... How is your mineral water going tonight?
Sucks.
I think that's what's thrown you a little bit tonight. Because we like Don't mind having a beverage while
usually, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just, I didn't have any. Actually, it's a lie. I meant to. What I did, I realised halfway through recording.
Yep.
Sam's made us some beer. Well, he made me beer, and
he's made it.
Yeah,
I hope it's better
homebrew.
I hope it's better than his opening question. His fantasy skills.
Well, he got the highest score this week.
A lot of people got the highest score.
Yeah. News, big news here. Obviously, there's the Ferrari and Blue business, which is news.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, it's not news. It's just I'm looking forward to seeing it, but it's not.
Me too.
It's not big news.
Me too. I know you're going to hate it.
The big. No, I don't know. The big news.
I reckon you look at it and just be like, look.
If they make it all carbon, I'll be fuming.
It's blue.
Is that they're looking at the restructure of the point system.
Oh.
So restructure of the point system means that they're going to look at scoring points all the way down to 12.
Participation points.
Yeah. Thoughts? What do you reckon?
No, hate it.
Tell me more about why it is that you hate it
because
so much.
At some point you have to have a cutoff. Now
you have to have some losers.
You have to. Someone has to lose. Like, life is about resilience.
Yep.
So while I quickly find my example of what I want to talk about, can you just run us through what the point system is going to look like?
All right. So the point system will be. Well, let me find. I had my graph.
All right, I've got it here.
All right,
I've got it here.
Still 25.
I'll multitask here. So, 25 points for first, 18 for second, 15 for third, 12 for fourth, 10 for fifth, 8, 6, 5, 4. And then what would usually go 8, 6, 4, 2, 1, it now just goes 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 12th, you get 2 points. Sorry, 11th, you get 2 points. And 12th, you get 1 point.
Yep.
Like, if you finish 12th, do you deserve a point? No. Because then if you're giving it to 12th, and this is the real basic point and real basic analogy around it. If you're finishing 12th, then why can't 13th have a point? Why can't 14th have a point? And then at what point do we cut it off? Where you're getting a point just for participating. 12th is not points worthy. Not even one. And then the novelty of the fastest lap point seems to have deteriorated. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Like, where's it gone?
Yeah.
Where's it gone? Fernando had it this week. 400 days since his last fastest lap, if you can believe it or not.
The fastest lap point can go. There's no benefit to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Look, I'm not real sure on what the point is that they're trying to achieve. I mean, I think it's because the top teams seem to be so entrenched in the top teams at the moment.
Yep.
It just feels so reactive, doesn't it?
Yep.
You know what? If you want to make 12 points 12 positions available for points, make some more spots on the grid.
Yep.
Like I would honestly, I'd understand it if they brought in 2 new cars.
Yep.
That would make sense to increase the points. All right, look, we've increased the points to make more available because we've got more cars on the grid. But you're not bringing more cars on the grid. So now, if we've got, so let's say this weekend we had 3 cars that DNF'd.
Yep. Then
all of a sudden, you've only, in that situation, you only have 5 cars that didn't score points for the weekend. Yeah, no, I'm with you. It seems strange. I think it's just, this is really loud. Apologies for the noise, but yeah, it does seem really, really strange.
And my point, going back to just giving points to everyone, I mean, it's not a horrid system, but it makes me think V8 Supercar Championship in Australia have what I can only describe as the worst points allocated system in motorsport history. Alright, so across a race weekend, it will vary. So, for example, round 1, the winner gets 150 points. I don't know why you get 150 points. Second place, 138, 129, 120, 111, 102, 96,
why
90,
so
84,
high?
78. Stupid. All the way down to 30th, it gets 15 points. Like, doesn't make sense. But then you go and race 7 rounds later, and first is no longer worth 150 points. First is now worth 100 points. And then 92, 86, 80. And then you get towards the back end and you go and start doing, a race in round 23, and suddenly first place is worth 300 points.
Does it promote racing? Like, do we find that maybe sometimes they switch off at the back and it promotes a bit more racing? Like, for example, we might have seen tighter racing for Albon's position this weekend.
No.
Across the board. I mean, that would make sense, is that's what they're trying to promote, is that everyone races all the way to the flag. If you go all that way back, then there's more cars in with a chance of
But then the knock-on effect of that is going to be, well, why don't we promote racing all the way down the grid?
Yeah, well,
and let's give everyone a point.
I think that's sort of what they're suggesting, though, that they're doing here is there's a chance to get a championship point.
All right, so if you go through and have a look at it, right, was Alex's race on the weekend worthy of a point?
No, but that's not. I don't think.
No, but this is what I'm talking about.
From.
This is what I'm saying. Like, if you're looking at what is race worthy, like Stroll's race last weekend was not worth a point. He's a lap down. So if you look at where we were in Japan 2 weeks ago, so you've got Lance, who was lapped, and you've got Hulkenberg, who was also lapped as well. They're not worth 1 and 2 points.
No, and they're also not going to be fighting for it. But however, we saw Pierre Gasly finish 4 seconds behind Albon on the weekend, and then we saw 2 seconds behind that was Zhou, and then behind that, well, no, a bit further back was Stroll.
Yep.
But because he can't stay within the field because he's a spud. But yeah, so maybe what we would have seen is a bigger fight for those positions instead. Anyway, I think this rain's raining us out. I think this might be a sign. This might be a sign that maybe I've done too much whinging. It's like, Roger, cut your crying out, get over it. You'll be right. But no. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We will have a fan frenzy. I'm not sure where we're going to record that fan frenzy, but anyway, we will have a fan frenzy coming out later in the week. Next race, Miami. What are you hoping for in Miami? Do you like the Miami race?
I do.
Is it one that could go?
There's a lot that could go.
Is it one of them?
I think I need to give it a couple more years for a
geez, you're a patient man. Look, to be honest with you, this is my last year. We need a decent race out of it this year.
All right.
Otherwise, I'm not sure that it's just bringing a bit of glitz and glamour.
Yeah.
It's a play for me. So far, it's been a bit of a plastic fake race.
Yep. If I get a procession, I'll probably agree with you there.
It's a cool track. I'd like to drive it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't promote great racing. It doesn't really bring anything to the F1 grid. I'd rather, if they're going to stay in America, I'd rather them go somewhere else in America.
That's fair enough. Laguna Seca.
Yeah, it's never going to happen though, is it?
No, but she's a bit good, wouldn't it?
Would be, yeah. Prediction? Max, then what?
Max, then Checo.
Then Checo.
And then...
No, you're wrong.
And then Carlos.
Oh,
he's got form around there
they'll
too.
Be back. Yes.
Yep.
Yes, very true.
Yep.
All right. Well, until then, sorry about the end of the pod with all this rain, but it's good for my garden, so we'll get over it. Goodbye now.